Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Patricia Coughlin. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a really spectacular New Year. So we're just wrapping up 2019. I've taken a little break. You haven't heard from me in a couple of weeks. And I think that's really important. So in addition to doing the kind of deep work that we've talked about, really focusing and concentrating on the work at hand, it's equally important to take big breaks and chunks of time off, not just from work, but certainly from media and all kinds of external influences, so you can not only recharge, but really reconnect with your inner being. In the last video, I was talking about how important it is to avoid the trap of getting into a victim mindset, the idea that life is just happening to you, and also how important it is to help your patients really give that up. Well, what's the healthy alternative? That's really what I want to talk to you about today. And again, it's a lead-in into 2020 and how you can become an even better therapist in the coming year. What does it take to go from good to great? There are some givens. Is intellect, IQ, important? Yeah, you have to have some basic intelligence. Is talent important? Yes, I do believe so. You have to have some innate ability. But those two things alone, ability, talent, and intellect, and even 10,000 hours of practice, aren't necessarily going to get you there, because it really depends on what kind of practice and what quality of practice you're doing to enhance your abilities and your skills. So those things that have been often considered more soft factors, so again, you have intelligence, kind of a hard, stable factor, but it's really these other factors, passion and persistence, what Duckworth has called grit, really seems to make all the difference in going from good to great. She defines grit as passion and persistence in the face of frustration and obstacles in the attainment of long-term goals. You've got to develop some stamina. You can't just give up when things aren't going your way. But again, keeping an open mind and learning from mistakes so you can keep growing. One of the most important things to really pay attention to in all this is your source of motivation. Is it inside of you? Are you motivated by intrinsic value in what you're doing? Or are you motivated by extrinsic factors like money, fame, recognition, approval? We know that the people who are able to sustain effort over a long period of time are really internally motivated. You have to find something innate that lights you up about your chosen field, and also that can keep you going so that you're getting better and better, learning and growing and making progress. It's not about being perfect, but it is about making progress. So make sure that whatever you're doing, you've got an internal motivation for it, for the innate sense of gratification in your own development and also in being able to help other people. The other issue that, again, is kind of the flip side of that victim position is that top performers, whether we're talking about teachers or business people or therapists, is that they hold themselves accountable for their own behavior and for the outcomes that they are achieving. So instead of, again, falling into that victim place or getting helpless or blaming everybody and everything else except for you, it's really about being accountable whether the outcome is positive or negative. So watch out for what's been called the depressive paradox. These are folks who take all credit for negative outcomes. That's all because of me, right? Because I'm so stupid or terrible. And take absolutely no credit for positive outcomes. They will attribute those to things like luck. But you also don't want to be the opposite and take all the credit for positive outcomes and none at all for negative or inadequate ones, right? So when you're accountable, when you're responsible, you're looking at what your contribution is to the outcome, whether it's positive or negative. Okay, and then by making, and also not, I was going to say, making your own assessment, watching your own tapes, you really want to be actively seeking out feedback from your patients. And there are different ways to do this. Some people use paper and pencil tests. I don't like them. I think they have all kinds of inherent problems. So I am constantly evaluating and asking for feedback from patients throughout, and then also not just listening to their words, but what's the evidence that they're actually experiencing change. So I'm looking at very specific examples of change in target areas. So the people who really go from good to great are very open to feedback. They accept it, they take it in, whether they like it or not, and then they use that to formulate a very specific next step. So consider some sort of deliberate practice in the next year in which you are specific about what your next step is, what that step just beyond your current level of competence, whether it's in being able to use the two triangles to assess and monitor patients throughout a session, or developing a strong collaborative alliance, or really listening. So many therapists are busy formulating their interventions that they're not listening to the patient. So really listen with that third ear, and listen for the unconscious meaning, for the unconscious therapeutic alliance. Like I had a great example of that in a recent session where this woman was very depressed. I was just doing the evaluation. She was hopeless, helpless, kind of passive. And I was getting concerned. And so I asked her, do you ever get so hopeless that you just think about, doing yourself in? And she said, well, there wouldn't be any need for that because, I'm dead already. So to me, that was a huge communication from the alliance. And I asked her, when did that happen? And she told me exactly. And that had tons of meaning. It was directly connected to the death of a boyfriend of hers who she frankly had wanted to get rid of for some time, but he was sick, she couldn't do it. But she was really, really, able to see that when she got her wish to get rid of him, she was really overcome with guilt and basically had given herself a life sentence and killed off her own joy and potential and happiness ever since then. So it really was that careful listening and the therapeutic alliance that led us there. So these are the kinds of things I'm really going to suggest you do. You formulate a very specific goal for yourself that's just beyond your current level of competence. You're going to keep that in mind. You're going to practice it. You're going to look for that. When you're watching your tapes, you're going to be seeking feedback, both from patients and from supervisors. You're going to make sure really that you're connected to your passion, that you're able to be persistent, that you don't give up when things are going poorly, but you get back at it, and that you make sure that your motivation is really intrinsic. And finally, you want to be aware of what Carol Dweck calls your mindset. She has articulated two mindsets. One she calls a growth mindset, and the other is a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset, I'm just not good at math, or, I'm really smart in science, actually don't do very well over time because they're seeing their ability, the outcomes they're able to achieve as a manifestation of some fixed quality in them that there's nothing they can really do to change. Those who adopt a growth mindset, that these qualities, learning math, science, psychotherapy, dance, art, again, you might have some inherent design sense and some talent, but, without that growth mindset, always looking at where you can learn, where you can grow and develop, and again, not give up when things go poorly, but actually redouble your efforts, you're going to see that you're going to get into that camp moving from good to great. So I wish you all an extraordinary new year filled with love and laughter and lots of learning. Thanks.